Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here. 4 nerds by nerds, hanging out with a couple nerds.
Hey, I'm Ryan.
I'm Ted.
And today we have a GM 911. I think the gist of the question is how to have a 10-session dungeon crawl without it actually just being a slogfest and just fight the monsters.
Well, before we get into that though, guys, jump down to the description below. Sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. It's a great way to get GM tips and player tips emailed directly to your inbox, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
And back to the show.
So this is a GM 911 from Dune Dane 93. And he's actually got a two-part question.
Two-parter.
He's a first-time DM.
With new players.
With new players. Only one of his 3-player characters has actually had any RP experience or tabletop RPG experience before. And it seems that the players are more interested in combat than doing any actual role-playing. We see this kind of stuff all the time.
It makes you wonder if he's actually watched any of our other GM 911s.
We've done. He says only one character has any kind of fleshed out backstory. So first question is, how does he get them to RP? Second question is, they were running
Hot DQ, Order of the Dragon Queen, I believe. Yeah.
And they decided to move away from that particular storyline.
Yeah.
And since demons and devils were mentioned, he went off book. He had one of these demons teleport, attack them en route to Waterdeep, and whisk them away to their realm. They're now stuck in what he sees as a 10-session dungeon crawl, and he wants to know, how does he have a 10 sessions in a demon's labyrinth that's not just 10 sessions of fighting monsters?
Well, I mean, you could just have a smaller dungeon. Would be one of them. Because I imagine that Dune Dane, is that
Dune Dane 93?
You probably designed it, and I mean, for me, like a 10-session dungeon crawl by and large would probably be too much. But there's also a tradition of like dungeon crawl classics where it is just about the mega dungeons. And, so if you can find yourself enjoying that and your players are enjoying having these combat encounters, so that's one thing.
No.
And also, too, congratulations in bringing new people into the hobby. And
being a new person yourself.
Taking the reins yourself to run a game and everything. So, like, you're doing great work as far as that goes.
Absolutely. So, from one side, question 1 answers question 2. Your guys are interested in combat. You got combat. What's the problem?
Well, I mean,
he wants more role.
Him or her as the GM might want. Yeah.
That was said in jest.
Yeah.
But it does boil down to, number one, what is our first foray into DMing, and that's session 0.
Mm-hmm.
Did he talk to the players and find out what exactly they want out of this? If all they want to do is video game style fight monsters, and he's not interested in that, well, then they need to rethink their plan.
They also just probably might not understand what role-playing is anyway.
Being new to the hobby.
Yeah, so the first thing I say is you have to lead by example, and how do you get your players to roleplay? You roleplay with them.
Right.
If you throw monsters at them, they're just going to think they're supposed to kill the monsters. And
so the monsters need to talk. The monsters need to roleplay. Even during the combat, they need to be aware that it's more than just I'm something here to fight.
I almost always incorporate role-playing scenarios into my dungeons. Not every single time, but if it's a bigger dungeon and if it's going to be something that's done for longer, I always have at least one encounter in there that's not combat related. And you can be role playing, it can be exploration, it can be solving puzzles.
It's like the 5-room dungeon, the trick, what are the terms? There's the trick. There's the
I don't remember the.
Basically,
I know what you're talking about.
There's something in the DMG that talks about dungeon design, where basically the 5-room dungeon is the idea that you have these 5 diversity of things that are happening. And if you're having a 10-layered dungeon or a 10-session dungeon, you kind of make a bunch of micro 5-room dungeons where you have variety in what's going on. And, vary up the cadence. This is no hard and fast rule. Just the idea is it creates something that, like, sometimes it's puzzles, sometimes it's, like, a trap with an encounter or whatever. So the variety is the spice of life. Like, you don't need a formula to do this. Just, ad hoc create some things that just feel vastly different from one another for the most part.
So if you wanna have these these mega floors full of monsters and have things that they can role play with, we're talking about demons here. So there are prisoners who are going to be there they've been tortured, and they're purposely kept at near death for whatever iteration you want, because it's fun for the demons. You can have some kind of monster that doesn't want to fight. He's looking to get away, and perhaps the players
He just wants someone to play Pogs with
Well,
him.
I mean, or you could have the Starscream demon who's just like, hey, if you guys will kick the crap out of this other demon, like A, I would love to watch, and and B, like, I'll reward you or give you a heart's desire. Now, this is a demon, and I'll probably screw them over after they're done fighting and fight them too. But he'll kind of try to make that lore to the whole thing, like, yeah, I'll grant you your heart's desire if you'll kill this other demon for me.
In my Trouble Prospectors game, I introduced a talking mushroom, and obviously, yes, the players could have kicked it over and it would have just died, but instead they decided to interact with it because it was interesting and not threatening. In the Maze of Mandoon, I used someone that had been turned into a Trent. Or not necessarily a Trent per se, but a tree-like creature. They're kind of imprisoned. I think I even used that very same thing previously in a different labyrinth.
Yes.
It's someone who you found to escape the labyrinth and they got incorporated into it.
And of course, there was a promise made to go back and get them to get them freed.
And in the last one, my players took a cutting.
Yeah.
With them, and they're trying to make a baby Groot or something.
Yeah, we are trying to Groot it up. Yeah. We planted that.
So other solutions. There could be other solutions to the problem than just fighting, or it just could be like an interesting showpiece.
Well, here's the thing too, right? You're in like a layer of hell, presumably, if you're dealing with demons. Dante Inferno it up too, like Dante encountered all these people that like these sinners that like recounted their stories of what happened to them. So you could just have the souls of the damned and the suffering. What are they? Lemurs? Are the like little
blobby things?
Yeah, blobby thing.
Yeah.
Like it could some of them could one or two could tell their story of how they came. One could be like a fallen priest or a paladin, recount how his soul came to be damned, as it were. And he could be penitent, And
of course, let's not forget about the wonders of polymorph. So you could have a demon who is totally just there, trying to get one over on them, tweak their heartstrings, get them sympathetic, and as soon as their guard is down,
try to murder them.
I think that's I don't think that's a good way to go with this case, because you're going to teach them every encounter is a combat encounter. It's kind of counterintuitive to what he's trying to do.
Right. It makes sense for the demons, but if you're trying to foster certain behaviors,
well, I mean, if you have lots of role playing, encounters with all of these different options, and most of them don't lead to combat. It's an option.
It's a 10-session dungeon. There's going to be more combat than anything, so you're going to have to highlight those role playing encounters a bit more, and make sure that, keep for this one in the beginning anyway. After they've been doing it for a while and you've kind of trained the players,
then you can those betrayals.
Okay.
Then you can start introducing that, or introduce it in a not dungeon environment, because the environment will also make a big difference as well.
That's true.
Yeah. So another thing too, right? Since nobody has fleshed out backgrounds, is demons have a long memory. They get banished places. Make something about one of the players have a relevance with one of the demons, like their grandfather or great grandfather banished it, and now that demon really wants to murder and slay that PC. So you've tied a background to the player that there's this history his family had that he didn't even know about. Especially if they're a holy character, that makes sense. If they're a warlock, that's another thing that could definitely have some relevance.
Or you could go the same path and tweak it a little bit and be like, they could actually encounter that ancestor, their soul,
in hell, yeah.
and maybe they had fallen, and they seek redemption through
their actions.
Through their actions to kind of give them something to work on.
My fate is now tied to yours. type
Yeah.
of situation.
Yeah, or you could have a demon like be willing to make a pact with them or something like that. You know, like
It's an excellent place to take Warlock levels.
yeah.
for
If you
sure.
want to go Warlock, this would be a good way to like. Yeah, we could either fight you and do this. I'm a very powerful demon, or how about we make a deal? You know.
So I think we've put out quite a lot of options.
Oh, we always put out.
You know, if you guys out there have any suggestions for Dune Dane 93, you'd like to put in the comments below. I'm certain he would be happy about that. So while you're at it, like, share, even subscribe.
You can follow us on Instagram.
Speaking of packs and patrons, you can patronize us in a good way over on Patreon.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.